this is Heather with Stamp Happenings. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, and today is World Card Making Day. So what I've decided to do is I put together a few birthday cards for you. I had several that need to go out this month, so I thought while I was designing them, I would do a World Card Making Day event and do it online so I can share them with you and give you hopefully some new ideas. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me turn my camera around here. See how easily I can do this. Hi Tina, how are you tonight? Look at how quickly I got this switched around tonight. I'm finally starting to get the hang of this. Okay, let's see here. I kind of want to extend this out a little bit though. There we go. That's a little bit better. Whoops. Okay. Did today for World Card Making Day, Tina? Okay. All right, I've got everything set up here, so let's go ahead and get started. If you did something today for World Card Making Day, I'd love to hear what you did. So I'll watch the comments and, let me know if you have anything to share with us. Okay, so the first card I'm going to make tonight, like I said, all of these are birthday cards. I have several that I need to send out to friends and family this month. So I thought, well, I'll use that for my kind of theme tonight, I guess. So this card uses our Celebrate Sunflowers stamp set and dies. Let me show you really quick. They do not come as a bundle. You do need to buy them separately, but these are the stamps that come with it, and they're just beautiful. They're so detailed and intricate. I love this. I bought this set originally because my daughter loves sunflowers, and so I had all these great aspirations to send her cards with sunflowers on them, and I sent her a couple, but probably not as much as a good mother would have. And then here's the dies, the sunflower dies. You can see that this would cut out the stamped image from right here. This one is a little more detailed. You can layer them, which we're going to do tonight. There's leaves, there's a small sunflower that goes with this stamp, and then there's some sprigs, some leaves. This is like a center of a sunflower. So it's a great little set, lots of options for you. So let's go ahead and get started on this first card. I am using Sahara Sand cardstock. This is just a half of a sheet. It's 5.5 by 8.5. I've got it scored in the middle at 4 1/4. Oh, you had to work today, Tina. That's a bummer. Oh, and I'm sorry your daughter's not feeling, or your mom got it and isn't feeling so great today. Well, I hope she's back on the mend quickly. Okay, so the other things I did is in the larger group that I belong to, we were issued a challenge to use up our scraps. And so all 3 of the cards I'm doing today use up scraps of designer series paper, which I thought was kind of a fun way to do things. So first I have my envelope and a strip of the Bumblebee designer series paper that goes with the 2020, 2022 in colors. And let's just get our envelope done right now to give that glue a little bit of time to dry. So put a little glue on here. It does not take a lot. Just remember, dot, dot, not a lot. Put it around the edges there. That way you know that the edges of your paper are going to be stuck well. And I just stick it on there and press it down. Uh-oh. Don't have it quite all the way over. It's gonna let me, I wonder if it's gonna let me lift it up. It is. It is. So let's try this again. I cut this piece that I put on the flaps of my envelopes. I cut it 2.5 by 6. That perfectly fits our envelopes, which are awesome, by the way. But it's just perfect to go on there and have a little bit extra to cut off, but you don't have to worry about whether or not it'll fit. So now I'm just going to trim around the edge of my envelope. If you've been watching my videos, you know the drill because I do this with all my cards. Another thing I like to do is instead of decorating the envelope, I use our clear envelopes and send my cards that way, which is kind of fun to do too. Because then I figure as much work as you put into your card, and now everybody who comes across your card at the post office is going to get to see it. Okay, so got that. Let's get that out of the way. Now what we're going to do is take our cardstock that we folded. I have a piece of, this is the Sahara Sand Designer Series paper, and this is cut at 2 inches by 5.5 inches. Then I have a piece of the Bumblebee cardstock, and it's just slightly bigger. I just made it 5.5 inches by 2 1/8. It just gives it that little bit of pop of color on the edges. So let's glue that down. And I'm using my Snail adhesive. This is what I prefer to use most of the time, but I use all the different adhesives depending on what I'm doing. But mostly I use the Snail. Okay, now before we stick that onto our card, what we should do is stamp our message first, because then that's going to help us align where we want to put everything else. So what I'm going to do is I am using my Sahara Sand ink. Here it is. And you can do color on color, where even though this is Sahara Sand and the ink is Sahara Sand, the ink is going to be slightly darker than the cardstock. And I just stuck my finger in it. I'm so smart. The ink is just slightly darker than the cardstock. So you get a nice subtle image when you use that, when you do that tone on tone. Okay. Let's just line it up here. There, that's pretty good. And you can see how it still shows really well. It's still dark enough that you can read it. It just is just slightly darker. And I'm going to clean off my stamp with my Stampin' Chamois. Close my ink pad. Now, I want to line this up here, and you know, I played with it. Did I want to put it up tall there? Did I want to put right smack dab in the middle of the card? Did I want it down a little lower? And for me, I think I settled on doing it right about the middle of the card. So, put some adhesive on there. Hey Tammy, how are you today? What'd you do for World Card Making Day? Thank you. Okay, so we're putting that on there right in the middle of the card. Then what I've done is I took the dies and I stamped out, let me get the dies again so I can show you. Or I didn't stamp, I'm sorry. I took one of the Bumblebee Designer Series papers, and I used this big one that would have cut out the stamped image right there. But I did not stamp the image. I just cut out the big piece. And I have to laugh because it looks to me like a little fuzzy monster. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not to you, but it does to me. Now, then I took our Sahara Sand and I cut out this die right here. Now I know I've shown you this way of gluing these little guys down before. There's a couple different ways you can glue them down. You can you know, put a few glue dots on the back there. If you, we have adhesive backing that you can put on your cardstock before you cut it out, and then it just cuts it with the image. And I'll have to do that sometimes so that you can see a little bit more what I'm talking about, what it does is it turns your die into a big sticker. But what I like to do, just because it's quick and easy, is, my glue is running out, is I use the liquid glue on my silicone craft mat and a sponge dauber, and I just go around it like this, getting glue all over it. This works really well with the more intricate dies like this because it gets the glue on those little tiny pieces, which is hard to do if you're just getting it straight from the bottle or whatever. So it's just a little easier to do it this way. Now what I'm going to do is I've got my big one, or my one that I did with designer series paper. Now the tricky part is figuring out how exactly these line up, because you want to make sure, oh, there we go. You want to make sure that you're cutting it so that your background and this detail image align together, because you can see it's got all those different points, and if you don't line it up quite right, then it just doesn't, it doesn't look right. So you want to make sure you line it up right. And there we go. Got it all glued down, quick and easy like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my card again. I'm going to put a little bit of my snail on the back. Oh, I'm running out of snail again. And I'm just going to put it right. Oh, you know what? I should use some glue dots on that. Or not glue dots, but dimensionals. So let's do that. And I'm going to put a few extra on here because it is so big. If you have the foam adhesive sheets, you could cut one up and use that too. I really like the foam adhesive sheets. Anybody else use those? Robin, you asked, what is snail? That's a really good question. Snail is one of the kinds of adhesive that we offer. I'll show it to you here. It comes in a little cartridge like this, and when it runs out, you just take this piece out and you put a refill in. And we carry two kinds of snail, and you know, you just drag it like a whiteout dispenser. We offer two kinds. There's Snail and Snail Plus, and I prefer the Snail Plus. It seems like it just doesn't get hung up quite as easily as the Snail, the regular one, does. It's also a bit stronger adhesive. It does cost a little bit more, but I like it because of the fact that it works so well. Now I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool and pull all these little backs off of all the dimensionals. Well, that guy doesn't want to come off. Okay. I saw a really great idea. As you can tell, with the white dimensionals, you can't always see if the back has come off. And one thing I saw another demonstrator do is she took her dimensionals and she took like a black Sharpie and drew lines through them so that when she took the backs off, she knew the back was off because it no longer had a black line through it. So there's just an idea if that bothers you. There we go, stuck it on there, and we have one last little piece here to do the inside of the card, because you know I like to do the insides. I am determined to use every last drop of glue in this bottle, and I think I'm getting dangerously close to that point. Okay. Just stick this down, just a little bit of my adhesive. Oh, I used the wrong side, but that's okay. Just a little bit of my DSP, my designer series paper. And then I'm gonna just trim off that excess. It drives me crazy when it's just slightly too short, so I've learned to make them just slightly too long and then just trim off the excess. So there's our first card with our envelope. quick and easy, right? Yes, Robin, stamp and seal, it's the same thing. Now on my first card, when I made my sample of this, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I used a little bit of Wink of Stella in the center of the flower because I thought it needed something sparkly. Normally I love Wink of Stella and I say you can't go wrong, but I think just with the subdued colors and then the plaid paper in the background, it just didn't quite fit. But always think about Wink of Stella. It's a fun way to just spruce up your cards a little bit. So are you guys ready to move on to card number 2? We're cruising tonight. Okay, so card number 2. Where'd it go? Okay, so this one that we're going to make here, we're going to use the Sweet as a Peach designer series paper, and we are going to use the stamp set for the birthday message, but we're doing something a little bit different with the flowers, and I'll tell you why as we go. So first of all, there's the Sweet as a Peach stamp set, and it has lots of cool messages in it. There's 20 stamps in this set. There's flowers, there's peaches. I've seen people turn these into cherries or apples or plums. So there's a ton that you can do with this, and it goes beautifully. The paper that goes with it is absolutely beautiful. Thanks, Tammy. So what I was going to do is for the flowers on this card right here, I was going to use these ones. And then I realized I don't have the dies. I don't know why I thought I did. I usually buy everything that I can buy as a bundle, I do. And I don't know why I didn't in this case, but I didn't have the dies to cut out these flowers, and I just did not want to spend the time fussy cutting tonight. So I took the Floral Squares dies, and it has one single little flower here and then these smaller little flowers too. So I just punched out the flowers with this set. So that gets us going for that. Let me show you what we're doing here. Okay, so this card, it's a white base, same size as before. It's 5.5 by 8.5, and I scored it in the middle at 4 1/4. Take my bone folder. There we go. And now what we're going to do is I took a piece of white cardstock that was 4 by 5 1/4, and I ran it through my embossing folder. I couldn't come up with the word. I love this folder. I use it a lot because it's very, very basic. I don't know how well you can see it. Let's see what we can capture on camera. You can kind of see it. What it looks like to me is it looks like tweed. So it just gives it a nice texture in the background without being super busy and taking away from your stamped images or your die or your if you're using designer series paper or whatever. So I really like it. And it's not really masculine, it's not really feminine, so it goes a long way. You can use it quite a bit. So this is the Tasteful Textile Stamp and Cut and Emboss embossing folder. And they're like $10 in the catalog. They're not expensive at all. And so we're going to use that. Then we're also going to, let's see here. We have an envelope to decorate. And our piece of designer series paper that's 2.5 by 6 that'll go on our envelope. Then I have a piece here that I want to say this piece was 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, and then this one is just 1/8 of an inch bigger each direction. So like, or maybe it was 1/4 of an inch bigger. Yeah, it looks like I did 1/4 of an inch bigger there. So we've got those two pieces. I've got this 1/2 inch strip of designer series paper for the inside of our card. And then another piece here that's 2 inches by 4 inches to go across the front of the card. And I think we are ready. Oh, and then I just have a scrap here that's 1/2 inch. We're going to use that to stamp our message on it. And then I have some gray baker's twine that comes in our baker's twine set I love that set. It comes with 4 or 5 different reels of baker's twine in different colors, and I use it all the time. Very, very useful. And then 3 of those flowers that I showed you from the Floral Squares dies that I punched out in the Balmy Blue cardstock. So let's see. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. First, let's get this strip on the inside of our card. Normally I like to put like a white piece or, you know, a lighter color to stamp on or to write a message on. But because this is already white, we don't really need to do that. So we're just going to glue this down. So for those of you who were with me on Wednesday, oh, do you hear that? My husband's cooking and my smoke alarm keeps going off. So those of you who were with me on Wednesday, I told you that he played bingo for me, and he didn't win me anything. But bless his heart for doing it for me. I thought that was very sweet. Okay, so I've just glued that to the inside of my card. Cut off that excess. Oh, looks like I need a little more glue right there. Ooh, I got quite a bit there. I don't think I really wanted that much. Okay. Okay, so the inside of the card is done now. Now what I want to do is I'm going to take my piece that I embossed with my Tasteful Textiles, and then I've got a piece of the cardstock, or I'm sorry, the DSP that comes with our peach. The Sweet as a Peach is the name of the suite, and I can't think offhand what the name of the paper is, but if you're looking in our annual catalog at the pages that have the Sweet as a Peach stamps and dies, you'll see the paper there as well. So let's glue this guy down. There it is. Okay, and I'm just putting this right in the middle of the card. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my twine. One thing about the baker's twine, I don't know if you know this, but you can color it any color with our Stampin' Blends markers. And so like I always run out of the white because I'm always coloring in other colors. But that's one way that you can get it to match what you're doing. But it comes in like black and crumb cake and gray and white. And I think maybe another shade of brown, like a light brown, but I don't remember for sure. Okay, now I wrapped this around my card twice. My fingers are a little gluey now, and I'm trying to tie a bow with this. Not necessarily the best combination. Okay, tie my little bow. You're a Peach. Thank you, Tammy. You're a Peach is the name of the paper, and she got the item number if anybody's interested. It's 155686. Oh, I guess it was a race between Tammy and Robin. I'm just trying to make this bow a little less funky. One thing that I found really helps me when I tie my bows is when I first tie it, I don't care a lot about the shape. I just want to get the bow tied. Then once it's in there, then I start playing with it and get it the way that I want it. If I try to get it perfect right from the get-go, it never quite lines up right. And I don't think I'm going to want to keep those tails that long, but let's wait until we get everything else on the card and then we'll see how much we want to trim it. So now I have my piece of Balmy Blue. I keep calling it Bliss Blue, which was a blue this shade 100 years ago that we had. Okay, so I'm going to glue this piece on here. I love this DSP though. It's pretty on both sides, and I love the colors of it. It's just fun and pretty and a must-have, I say. Yes, it is a very pretty blue. Okay, so I'm just lining it up on there, nothing super fancy. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my strip right here, and I decided to stamp my message in Night of Navy. I wanted a darker message that kind of stood out, but black was too much. And so I'm using the Night of Navy. Practice it, there we go. All right, so I'm going to do it almost to the edge, but not quite. There we go. And the reason I'm not going quite to the edge is because we're going to put those flowers on there. Yes, Robin, I'm sorry to do that to you, but yes, now you have to get it. I actually had the paper before I even had the stamps. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my strip here and I'm just going to cut it at an angle. And I'm going to take my adhesive. And you know, I think I'm going to wait to put it down until I see how it lines up on my card. So I'll stick it to my silicone mat where it won't stick. I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of this piece. I would normally use foam adhesive sheets, but I think I'm out. So, because I do use them all the time. But a piece like this, I don't want it to sag, so I do put in quite a few dimensionals. Robin, what did you share to our group? Yes, 20 million dimensionals. I figured they would not give me so many in a package if they didn't want me to use them all, right? The other nice thing about taking my backs off this way is that then they all stick to the end of my little tool, you know, like little garbage picker-uppers. And then I can throw them all away in one spot instead of having them all over my floor that I then traipse all over my house. Okay. Now, I just want to put this on my card. I kind of want to line it up so my bow is next to it, but I also want to center it on the card. So I think that looks good. Got the bow there. I kind of like the bow that size. What do you guys think? Oh, she shared the video. Thank you very much. Okay. Now we have our little happy birthday. Let's put our flowers on it first, so we can get them lined up the way we want them before we stick this down to the card. So all I'm doing here is I'm just putting a little bit of glue. You can use glue dots. I'm literally using dots of glue. Remember, again, you don't want to use a ton. Get that third one down here. Okay. Now that I've glued everything to my workspace, see, I wasn't thinking. Okay, Now, let's see where we want this on the card. I'm going to put, we've got some glue on the back from when I placed it on the strip, so it's not too bad. You know, you want to make sure you get it over far enough that it doesn't overlap your card. What do we think? Maybe right about there. Now let's glue this guy down to our card base. Okay, and then one last thing that we need is the Opal Rounds, because why wouldn't you? And I used, in this case, I think I used the big ones. Yeah, I did. The Opal Rounds come with two different sizes. You got big ones and little ones, and I used the big ones here. Just stuck them right in the center of those flowers. Ta-da! Let's do our envelope real quick. I usually try to do it first, but it slipped my mind this time. So, you need to step aside, sir. Okay. I do too, Tammy. It's such a great bundle, and there's so much you can do with it. I mean, it's not just peaches. As you can see, like this card, I didn't even use the peaches. Okay. Now let's trim off our excess. If only it were this easy to trim off my personal excess. Okay. Oh yeah, Tammy, bring it out, because you've got that craft fair coming up next. Is it next weekend? So here we go, our card and our envelope. What do you guys think? Okay, so our final card. Boy, we're sure making good time tonight. I intentionally tried to keep the cards pretty simple today because it was sort of a last minute decision to do this live. And I really wanted to do it, so I had to have time to design the cards and make them, and they just all ended up being fairly simple cards, which is nice. Sometime I'm going to have to talk to you, Tammy, about the craft fairs that you do and kind of how you do them, because I think I'm interested in getting into some, and so I'd like to talk to somebody who does them. Okay, so this card, another very simple one, and we're using that little flower again that we used last time from the Floral Squares dies. So let's go ahead and get started. This time we're doing the card a different direction. This time it's going to be long, so it's going to be hot dog. If you know the hot dog versus hamburger cut. Hamburger is when you cut it horizontally. Hot dog is when it's vertical. Those are technical terms, so clearly, you know, it's my stamping for years and years and years that I've acquired this knowledge. No, not really. But it does make me feel important, right? Okay, so anyway, guys, let's get started on this one. I've got a piece of the Misty Moonlight in 4 1/4 by 11, and it's scored in the middle at 5 1/2. We're just gonna burnish the edge there. Then I have a piece for the inside. I have to figure out which one of these is for the inside and which one is for the front. Okay, this one for the inside, and it is 4 by 5 1/4. And to go with that, I thought I cut a little strip. What happened to my little strip? Okay, well, I'll put this in and then I'll just add my strip later. But you can see I just cut a piece. This is the DSP that I'm using this time is from our hand-penned suite of products. And I just took this piece that's on the front. I took a little strip and put it on the inside. So like I said, I'll do that part later. Ooh, maybe you could do a live in our group, Tammy, about how you do, now you want a hot dog. I love it. Maybe in our group you could do a live about how you do craft fairs. Okay, so I just put my white piece on the inside for my message. Now what I'm going to do is I've got a piece here that is 4 by 5 1/4 in our pale papaya, and then a piece of white, basic white, that is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 that we're going to layer on top of that. So let's just glue those two pieces together right now. Line it up. This just has an 1/8 inch margin, so it's fairly tight in there. But I really like that tiny margin like that. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but my cardstock, I switched my blade on my trimmer, and because it's so fine and so sharp still, it gives me a little edge sticking up on my basic white, and I don't like that. So I just take my bone folder and smash it back down. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm taking my 2 little bits of cardstock or DSP that I've chosen. Both of these come from the hand-penned suite DSP. And I like it when it has that little banner type of end, but I can't hand cut one of those if my life depended on it. It ends up crooked, and then I trim it and trim it and trim it, trying to get it even, and by the time I'm done, it's like a 1/2 inch long. So one little trick I found, this is my tailored tags, I think is what it's called, the tailored tags punch. And what I do is I just line it up in here, and I cut just the edge. You want to make sure you've got it centered. But see, I just cut off this top piece of it so that it gave me that banner edge. I'm going to do it now on my other piece. Put it in there and just kind of line it up. That one's kind of crooked, but I can make it straight. Just line it back up again, move it over a little. There, that's better. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and adhere these pieces down. And these, by the way, this one was 1 1/2 inch by 3 1/2 inches, and this one was 1 1/4 inches by 3 inches. So it's just slightly smaller than the bigger one. I have adhesive all over my desk now. Another good use for baby wipes. Now I'm going to line this up. Okay, so now they're both on there. I have this little twine here. I should have done this right at the beginning, so I'm going to do this now. I'm going to color the twine. Remember how I was saying that you can make it any color you want? Well, that's what we're going to do right now. And I am taking my light pale papaya Stampin' Blend marker. And the reason I said I should have done this first is because it dries very quickly because they are alcohol-based markers, but it still does take a little, a minute or two. So if I do it right at the beginning, then by the time I need it for my card, it's dry. So I try to get in the habit of doing it right off the bat, but I don't always follow instructions. So I don't know if you saw my shirt that I'm wearing today, and it says problem child on it. And that's, you know, pretty accurate. My husband was telling me he got to work the other day, and he noticed that he'd put his shirt on inside out, because he does get dressed in the dark because he's trying not to wake me up. So he noticed his shirt was on inside out, so he went into the bathroom to fix it and realized he was wearing he said, I fixed it and the front of it said problem child. He knew right away he had my shirt. I'm going to be wrapping this around the card a couple times, so I've got quite a bit here to color. You can see it's super easy to do. It just takes a few minutes. Use the brush tip of your marker. And you can actually do this with any ribbon. Some works better than others just because, you know, if it's already colored and you're trying to change it to another color, then of course it blends those two colors. But it's fun to play with and get the colors that you really want. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this around my card. Pretty much what I did on the last one, to tell you the truth, where I wrapped it twice and then tied a bow. Okay, got these big floppy bow there. I don't want it quite that big. Okay, now we'll wait till we have the next piece on to figure out about how long we want to. Actually, I'm lying. Let's just cut them. There. So now we have that piece done. Now we're going to go ahead and put this on our card. I want to check and see. I'm looking to see if I do have any of the adhesive sheets. I can piece one together here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, my piece isn't quite as big as I wanted, but that's really not a big deal, because what I'll do is I'm just going to cut this into 3 strips and spread them out, because I don't have to have every square inch covered in foam adhesive. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little bit off here. I'll show you why. I don't really want my foam to go over my ribbon or over my twine, because it just makes it bulkier. So what I'm going to do is I need to cut a little bit more. I'm going to put the adhesive on both sides of the twine, so that way the twine can be flat against the card. Okay. Oops. Gotta cut my little piece off. Okay, now tear all my backings off. And become unstuck from it. I'm going to stick it right here. So now we've got that on the card. Next piece, I took the Layering Circles dies, and I used this one. It's the second from the smallest, and then I took this one that is also second from the smallest to give me a kind of a ruffle edge. So I have white and I have blue. The Layering Circles are another must-have set of dies because they're just so versatile. You use them quite a bit. I do anyway. Okay, so now I've got my happy birthday stamp and my Misty Moonlight ink somewhere. And now I'm stamping this up a little bit, so I'm not quite in the center. It's just up a little, and that's because we're going to put that flower on there. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to close my ink pad because it's the smart thing for me to do. Put a little bit of seal on the back. Line it up. Now, by using the particular circles that I did, I've got a very, very tiny margin with that blue. You can see it almost when you're holding it up, you almost don't see it, but when it's up against something white like that, you can see it just gives me a nice little pop of color without being too overt. Oops. Now I have a package of dimensionals where I've used up all the dimensionals, but I want to remind everybody that the edges are dimensionals too. You just need to cut them up and use them as little pieces. Waste not, want not, right? Oh my gosh, those look like little pairs of underwear. Okay, I'm going to peel these little backs off. You know, I'm going to forever see those as pairs of underwear now for the rest of my life. I'm never going to see, and I'm not going to unsee that. Okay, so now I'm going to stick that on here, and you just kind of eyeball it where you want it to be in comparison with your banners. I thought about putting it down here below to give it a little more balance that way, but I actually decided I liked it up above. Now I have my little flower that I used the Floral Squares dies. I used that little flower, and I don't know if you can really see, but what I used is I used the same DSP that I used right here, that peach colored polka dot pattern. And now I'm just going to use a little bit of glue to get that guy on there. And I have it just off to the side a little bit. And then, because we got to have some bling, I'm going to take one of my champagne rhinestones and put it right in the center of my flower there. And now that part is done. Underwater. Okay, let's see here. Gosh, I'm itchy. Okay, so now let's get our envelope done. Stick it on there. And of course I could have done my envelope with the other pattern I used, but I liked the little polka dots. So now I'm trimming off the excess. Okay, so here we go, you guys. We've got our card that we just made with the envelope that goes with it. Let's look at everything that we made tonight. Got this one. We've got this one. Oops. And then we also have this guy that we made. Little sunflower one. What do you guys like the best? Oh, I got it, Tina. They do. They look like little underwear to me, and now I'm not going to be able to unsee that. And probably you won't either. So Robin likes the blue one. The one that says happy birthday. Uses the peach paper. Tina likes the sunflower. I think I'm really digging the sunflower too, Tina. Okay, so that's all I've got for you guys tonight. I really appreciate you joining me on this World Card Making Day. I hope that you guys got a chance to do some crafting today of some sort. And if not, I appreciate that you took the time to spend with me while we did this crafting of these cards. And thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. Tina says she likes the contrasting colors. I do too. I think that's what I like about it. So anyway, have a great rest of your day. If you get a chance to get some crafting in today, then have some fun with it and, you know, get some fun stuff done. If you liked what you saw tonight, I would love it if you would share this video. Give me some thumbs up. That just helps with the Facebook algorithms and you know, keeps my video out there and gets more people. So you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you Wednesday night with my regular live video at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Good night.